All right, so just when you thought you had learned everything there was to learn about arrays, we go and we do something like this. So what have we done here? Well, this creates what we know as a two-dimensional array. So, before we get too far into this, remember, an array is nothing more than a data structure. It holds values. And just like we can have a singular array, where you can think of like a grocery list where things go straight down kind of in a linear fashion, a two-dimensional array, you can think of rows and columns of a spreadsheet. So for example, over here, if I were to make a 4 by 3 array, it always goes rows and columns. So the visual that I can make here is that I'm going to have an array with 4 rows and 3 columns. So if I go over here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 5 rows. Let's delete this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 1, 2, 3 columns. So this is a blank two-dimensional array. All I've done here is create an array. I haven't put anything in it. It's called nums. And so the array name is nums. The data type is int. It is not that. It's holding int values. Okay, so a primitive integer value. And now we can start to talk about what is in the array. Now, right now, there's nothing in the array. How do I put something in the array? I can go like this. I can say, well, nums is the name. And with one-dimensional arrays, I would do something like this. And I would go, okay, I want to put, I don't know, 88 in the 0th spot. But as soon as I click away from here, it says you can't do that because we are working with a two-dimensional array. You have to include a second coordinate. This is the equivalent of playing Battleship with somebody, and they say A, and you're waiting for the second coordinate. It has to be A3 or C9. So here, if I say I want to put 88 into my two-dimensional array, I have to include another spot. And now it says, okay, I understand what you're trying to do. And this line right here, we'll put 88 into the 0th spot. Row 0, column 0. And so after that line of code, an 88 will go there. If I were to copy that line of code and paste it a few times, if I put a 1 here and a 1 here, and I put 99, and a 2 here and a 2 here, and I put, say, I don't know, 111, well, row 1, column 1 is right there, 99. Row 2, column 2 is right here, 111. If I were to try to continue this trend, and say put a 3 there, and a 3 there, and put 222, well, now you can see I'm going to have a problem because I go over here and I try to go to row 3 and column 3, and it doesn't exist. So similar to a one-dimensional array, if you tell me I have a one-dimensional array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and I try to load 6, I'm going to get a problem. So here I'm out of bounds. That will fall off the index, for lack of a better word. It's the equivalent of taking the elevator in a 15-story hotel to the 16th floor. It doesn't exist, so I'll get an error here. I got to be careful, but I can do this. I can say go to the 3rd row and the 2nd spot. So 0, 1, 2, 3. That's the 3rd row. The 2nd spot is right here. 2, 2, 2. Okay, so these lines of code here will populate the array in this way. As I go through the array, you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spots. The indices are as such. There is row 0, column 0. That's right there. I have an 88 right there, right now. And then there's a 0, 1. That one is right there, and there's nothing there right now. So that would be null, because there's nothing there. And then I'm going to copy this information, because in 0, 2, there's also null. In 1, 0, right now, null. In 1, 1, there's 99. In 1, 2, right there, null. Center this for those of you who like things neat. There we go. So again, row has 3 spots, 0, 1, 2. Here's row 1, 3 spots, 0, 1, 2. And so this pattern here is going to go on throughout, and this is going to go 2, 2, 2, and this is going to go 3, 3, 3. And the only other spots I have something are here, which is over 2, down 2. So you can see in 2, 2, I have 1, 1, 1, and in 3, 2, I have 2, 2, 2, and in the others, I have null. So that is currently, based on the code I have here, what I have in my array. I would like to prove it. I would like to spit that out to the city. Or to the city, sorry, I just read that word. This is left over. I'm going to clear this, and I want to prove that this is working. So if I run this right now, I'm not going to get any output because all of this is going on in computer memory. How do I make it come out to the screen? What happens when I print the array? What would happen if I just did a system.out.println of nums? Let's try that and just see what happens. So if I go public main, run it. Oh, so we have the same problem we had with a one-dimensional array. It spits out something. It's not an error, but what it is it's the computer's representation of the array, and that's obviously not what we want here. So we want to go through the array and we want to print out each thing in each spot. So I want to be able to print out 88 and then null and then null and then null and then 99 and then null and then null and then null and then 111 and so on. So I want to print out each compartment of the array. Okay, well, we've done loops. We know how to do loops. We've talked about those before. So let's uncomment this and see if this helps us. So we did this example before with something called mywords. We'll switch it to nums. And look at that, no errors. And everyone thinks, hey, no errors, great. That means it's going to work. We don't know that. So, we didn't get any errors. So let's just try it, see what happens. So we're going to run it, and I hit OK, and you can see more garbage, right? More of the same. And the reason is because what we're saying here is we want to go through the array called nums, and we want to print out the xth item. But here's the thing. The xth item of nums at this point is this entire thing. Okay? We have 2 dimensions that we're dealing with. So when you ask me for nums.length, what that does is it gets me the number of rows, which is 4. And then it's going to try to print all of this the first time through the loop. And then it's going to try to print all of this the next time through the loop. And then all of this the third time, and then all of this the last time. So the problem is still the same. It's actually interesting because what happens is in a 2-dimensional array, in the first spot, if you ask me if you tell me what is in here, well, it's actually a 1-dimensional array. This is a 1-dimensional array that holds onto another 1-dimensional array because we have a 2-dimensional array. We don't want to just print, if this was Battleship, we don't want to print the entire row. We just want to print one spot. So we need to ask for 2 coordinates. So if I were to do something like this, and I'm going to eliminate the loop here just for 1 second, I'm going to bring it back in a minute. But if I printed out the 0th spot of the array, now we should see some results. So if I run this, look, 88. So what we want to do is we want to print out 0, 0, and then 0, 1, and then 0, 2, and then 1, 0, and then 1, 1, and then 1, 2, and then 2, 0, and then 2, 1, and then 2, 2, and then 3, 0, and then 3, 1, and then 3, 2. Now, could I go and type that all and change the numbers? Sure. But if someone were to change this array to like 400 by 300 or something massive, as you could imagine in something like a phone book or a library database, that's not a great way to do things. So what we want to do is figure out how can we print everything out manually, automatically, so that we don't have to go and hard code all of that stuff. So let's bring back the for loop again, because we're on the right track. But what we want to do is we want to go through the rows, and this essentially says go through the rows of the nums array. So when I do this loop, right now we've set it up so it's going to go, okay, we're going to look at this row first, this row second, this row third, this row fourth. Okay, so when x is 0, we're looking at this row. When x is 1, we're looking at this row. When x is 2, this row, and 3, this row. But what we need is another variable that's going to say when x is 0, because x is 0 for this whole thing, we want to know what this is at 0 here, when the column is 0, and what about when the column is 1 and the column is 2? We need another variable. And in essence, we actually need another loop. So I'm going to copy this code here. And what we are doing is we are nesting one loop inside of another. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it inside here. And instead of, we already have x that's going through the rows. Now I'm going to make a variable called y, and this variable is going to go through the columns. So I'm going to have one variable that's going to go through here, 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 and another that's going to check here, here, and here. But what I want to do is I want to hold x steady, and I want to let y vary until we're done the row. So if you look here, that's exactly what's happening. We're holding row at 0, and we're going 0, 1, 2. And then once we're done, we go to 1. We hold 1 steady, and we go 0, 1, 1, 2. And then we hold 2 steady from here to here and go 0, 1, 2. So what we want to do here is add one little thing there. And what this says is go through all the columns, and for each column, we want to go to as many things as there are. Sorry, I said columns. Go through all of the rows, and for as many columns as there are in the row, print out the x, y-th thing. Okay, so I'll say that one more time. Go through all of the rows and use x as the variable that goes through the rows, and then go through all of the columns in that row. So this loop that you see here will go like this. Okay, x is 0. I'm going to look, x is 0. Okay, and y is 0, so I'm going to spit out this. Now I'm going to move y up to 1 because it's part of the inner for loop. And now I have 0, 1. Now I move y up to 2. Oh, and now there's nothing left, so I can't move y to 3, so I guess I move x to 1. So this outer for loop then moves x to 1, and then the y loop, or the y value, increases over and over again. Okay? So when I compile this and run it, you can see here 88, 0, 0, 0, 99, 0, 0, 0, 111, 0, 0, 222. And the nulls are just indicative of the fact that we haven't actually put any value into it, so it just comes up with a 0. So that is what we expected to see. So this is code that prints out each line of a two-dimensional array. Now, similarly, we can take, it doesn't have to be integers, it can be, for example, if I said put characters in there. Characters are just, I'll leave it at 4, 3, but characters are single characters, right? So I could put a B there, I could put an H there, I could put a space there, and I could put a 6 there. So a character is enclosed by single quotes, and it's just one single character. So if I were to run this code, even though, all this stuff down here we wrote for the integer one, it's all the same. Okay, if I go down here and I clear this and I compile and I run, you can see that it will still print out all the characters. Just in this case, the default is spaces. So with a character array, these nulls, essentially, when someone sets up this, and obviously nums is not the greatest word, but if I called it like my cars or something like that, then that is now the name. So this would become my cars. The data type would be car like that. In spot 0, 0 would be a B. In 1, 1 would be an H. In 2, 2 would be a space. So that's a space. And then the 3, 2 would be the character 6. And in the rest of the spots, there would just be blank. And that's actually a weird one because you can't see this, but there's a blank here and a blank here. But in 2, 2, there's actually a space. And I can prove that by highlighting it. If I double click here, there's nothing to highlight. But here, there's actually a space because that's what I told to be there. But the point I'm making is that these arrays can hold any type of data. It doesn't matter if they're two-dimensional, one-dimensional. I can put characters in them. I can actually even put the non-primitive character. So I can do something like this. And all that does is uses the character, that uses what's called the character wrapper class. So instead of using the primitive character data type, it uses the non-primitive, which provides a little bit more functionality. But if I were to run that, you will see the same thing. Except now you see the nulls, because these are objects and they actually have no value. So the difference here is that this is, again, a non-primitive when the other one was a primitive. Okay. And like anything else, you don't just have to loop through these arrays to load them. This isn't the only way to load a two-dimensional array. If I wanted to, let's go back to math here for a minute, and let's use the double. So we're going to do some work with decimal values here. So I'm going to change the name of my array to, let's just call it nums again. And we're going to change that to there and that to there. And what we're going to do is we'll put that there. I'm going to copy. So this code here we learned will spit out whatever is in the array. But what I want to do is show you how we can also use loop to load things into the array. Now, before I do, over here with our visual, let's change the array name. We've now made the array name nums. The data type is a double, and the capitalization means that it's a non-primitive. So this is the non-primitive double. And then here we're going to keep it the same. Well, you know what? Let's change up the length because we've already done a couple of examples like this. So let's do a 2 by 4 array. So what that is going to look like is 2 rows, 4 columns. So I can go over here to my visual and I have 2 rows, 4 columns. So basically I want my outline on that, and these are going to go away. Okay, so that's kind of the visual on the array that I'm making. 2 rows with 4 columns each. And again, 0. This is row 0, this is row 1, this is column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. So now my indices would change in that I only have 2 rows. So my 0 will go to here, my 1 will go to here, and I have no more data that I could possibly put in it. These go away for now. And my column values go from 0, 1, 2 to 3, 0, 1, 2 to 3. Okay, so the 2 and the 4 cause this to happen and change the picture as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put some stuff into it. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go, and I guess I don't need to delete it all. So nums xy equals, and let's go with x plus 2 times y. And I want you to pause the video just for 1 second. Oh, what did I do wrong here? Oh, doubles. Shoot. 0. There we go. I want you to pause the video just for 1 second and see if you can figure out what the value of nums is going to be. Like what's going to be in this table after this runs. All right, hopefully you paused it and thought about it for a minute. So what's going to happen here is x is going to start at 0 and it's going to stay at 0 while we do these 4 columns. Okay, so this right here is going to be when x and y are both 0. So 0 plus 2 times 0, that will just be 0. Okay, let's move on to this one. So for the next one, remember, x does not change, only y changes. So here, y goes to 1. X is still 0. 0 plus 2 times 1 is 2. This one here, now we're here. Remember, x still hasn't changed. Y goes up again because we haven't run out of columns to do. So now y is 2 times 2 plus 0. We got a 4. And then you can see the pattern evolving here. We're going to have a 6 here because y goes to 3. Oh, got to change my font color. Oh, I missed it. So we're about to do the next row. So now, once we're hit this point, there's no more columns to do. So we've done all of these, and now we're here. So now x moves up to 1, and y goes back to 0. So 1 plus 2 times 0, and we're going to have a 1 right here. Now we're here. X is 1, y is 1. X plus 2 times y. Now we have a 3 here. And you can see the pattern. Y is going to go to 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5, and this is going to be 7. So unless I've done something horrible, and by the way, these values here, you can now see would be 0, 2, 4, 6, 1, 3, 5, 7. So the value at these indices of the array, right there. 0, 1, you can see it right there at the 2. Okay. So, moment of truth, make sure that I didn't screw this up. If I compile this and I run it, there you go, 0, 2, 4, 6, 1, 3. And they're reporting like that with the point zeros because, remember, we said we were holding on to decimal values. If I changed this to an integer, and I'm just using the non-primitive integer like that, and I change that, so instead of 2.0 I have a 2, indicating that's an integer value, we should see all the same stuff just without the decimals. Let's just try that. There you go. And if I were to play around a little bit more, I can say, I can multiply my x value, I can play around with my y value even further. You actually get into quite a bit of math in here, but if I were to make some weird equation in here, I can change what I'm assigning to my values of nums. I'm not going to go through this one again, but if I clear and then compile and I run, you can see here that quite different numbers have come out of this. Okay, so you can play around in here and you can put different kinds of things in here. You can also, of course, put strings into a two-dimensional array. You can put characters in and make a game of tic-tac-toe. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. But the bottom line is that these two brackets indicate that you're making a two-dimensional array. These numbers tell you the size of the array. And then you've learned how to take a double for loop, also called a nested for loop, and iterate through an array, putting stuff into the array, but also reporting on the values that are inside the array as well. If you're thinking, can we do a three-dimensional one, which I'm sure you all are, you could actually keep going and say, I'm going to make a three-dimensional array like so. Notice that that line's fine. You'd have to go adjust a whole bunch of other stuff, but anyway, you can do that, but we're not going to do that here. You can actually make an array of indefinite length. So there you go. I hope you've learned a little bit about how to make a two-dimensional array, and that's all for now.